Okay, I was going to pre-record a video, but I haven't been able to find time, so I'm just gonna do it and say what I gotta say as I get ready for date night with hubby. So I get emails and messages all the time about, if God tells somebody who to marry, like if God reveals to a person who their spouse is. I'm not talking about like, oh, you'll meet somebody in a certain city at a specific time. I'm talking about specifically naming a person that this person is going to be your spouse. Now, I'd like to point out that nowhere in the Bible does it say, or does God tell anybody by name who they are going to marry. You've seen something like with Hosea, where God actually tells him to marry a prostitute. Or you see Abraham telling his servant to go and find a wife for his son. And the servant actually prays to God about, if this is the woman, and names some specific stuff. You don't see it anywhere in the Bible where God tells someone by name. Even the very first marriage that takes place in the Bible, which is when God blessed Adam and Eve, you see that when God created Eve with the intention of pairing Adam, God knew what he wanted to do. He didn't create a wife. He created a helpmate. And Adam saw that she was bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh, and he will call her, for she is woman, and whatever, the story. So God blessed them after Adam chose Eve to be his wife. And then God commanded them to be fruitful and multiply. Y'all know the story. So I just want to bring some relief to women who, if you feel like you were receiving a word from someone, like if you've received a prophetic word, or even in your prayer time, somebody was highlighted to you by name, and then, you put all your hope in that word that you received from God. I'd like you to revisit that, because especially if it's something where it's making you upset, where it's really eating away your confidence and faith in God, where it's really on your mind day and night, and you're kind of like obsessing over it if you're honest with yourself. God doesn't cause you to obsess over anything. God won't cause you to be confused about anything. And let me also remind you that anything God says will happen. That's a given of whether or not a word comes from God, as if it happens or not. But I also would like to add that the enemy is very crafty, and he copies God, and he also performs miracles. But the point is that the enemy is also in the business of blessing people for the sake of his own dark mission in life, which is to ultimately destroy people. And that's just to keep you from the truth of God, to keep you from the purpose of God. And anything the enemy tells you will always, or anything the enemy promises you will always have strings attached. I'm reminded of the time when I had an encounter with Satan. Yes, the Satan. When he promised me, if I worshiped him, he'll give me fame and blah, blah, blah. He also named a man. He named a person, showed me their face and everything. And of course, I denied him. But my point is, that is actually a strategy of the enemy. So I would like to bring some comfort and also just letting go of whatever it is you think God told you, because just letting go, it really upsets me when people say that, God told me so-and-so is going to be their husband and it never happens. That's not God. I'm sorry. There are no strings attached with God. The blessings of the Lord are rich, and they add no sorrow with them. And also, God's a jealous God, so he will never want to put something before you or tempt you that will cause you to make an idol out of a relationship, because we will do that. So I just hope this provides some relief and comfort to someone who may be thinking that God gave them a word about a spouse, and it hasn't happened yet, and you're driving yourself crazy about this word, and all you do is pray about that specific thing. Listen, baby, the Lord, he's too good for that. He's too faithful to string you along. And I will say this, if you did receive a word that someone was your husband, or, that you feel like God told you that someone was your spouse, and you get married, then that probably was a word from God. Because like I said before, anything God says, he will do it. He will always back up his word. There's two parties involved, two people involved, two hearts involved. So it's your choice. God will tell you, he'll present someone to you, just like he did my husband and I. He presented us to each other, and we chose each other. We chose to say yes to the Lord. And now here we are, almost 9 years later, married. Yeah, I hope this provides comfort to you. Just seek the Lord. Seek his face. Get in his word. Read his word to interpret a prophetic word. And yeah, move in purpose. The enemy's after stealing your purpose and your faith.